Hi, morning guys. So today I'm going to talk about how sound and audio can be part of the game, has to be part of the game development pipeline. When we think about sound and audio in games, right, we normally think about music, right? First and foremost, you think about music. But today I'm not going to talk about music. Today I'm going to talk about sound design. So this term, for those who are new to it, I'm going to explain a bit further. Yeah, let me first tell you guys briefly who am I. This is me. Awesome picture. So I started gaming since I was very young. I played like from Doom to Half-Life 1, all sorts of Sierra adventure games, LucasArts adventure games, Barbie's Magic hairstyling, my favorite. And then all sorts of games. So I've been a gamer since young. And along the way, I fell in love with electronic music. And as cliche it sounds, I decided to marry both together to produce music for games and be inspired by game music. After that, I went for the Singapore MIT Gambit Game Lab internship, which was a 2-month initiative in Boston, where we had 2 months to develop games based on research goals. And it was a really awesome experience because all disciplines, right, design, art, QA, everything, they started from pre-production all the way to polish, all the way to publish, and it felt really nice to be part of this whole cycle completely. After that, I worked in Gambit for about 2 years, and then I went to Vancouver Film School. I went to VFS to do sound design to, make my chops better. And then when I came back to Singapore, I started up IMBA with 2 other friends who are in the crowd there. Wave! Yeah, and we started this company because we felt that there was a disconnect for audio and games in Singapore. I mean, a lot of indie developers don't know where to find audio people. They always find freelancers or they go to film studios which charge ludicrously high. So we wanted to fill that gap. IMBA just celebrated our first birthday recently. Woohoo! And we've recently gotten like 2 awards, a couple of awards, one at IGF and one at Casual Connect Indie Prize last year. So that's our background, and part of these slides is going to be, we're talking about our stories and experience along the way as part of freelancers as well as part of IMBA. So the first thing, game audio myth 1. I can get my audio guys in 3 days before the deadline because audio is polished, right guys? So I know some of you are guilty of this, very naughty. But yeah, I'm going to address these myths in the next few slides. The next myth is that art needs to be completed before audio can begin work. Like there's like a hierarchy somewhat. But let me try to explain to you what I think about the game dev process. So to me, the game dev process is like a deck of cards. Every single discipline is like it belongs to a card in design, audio, story, QA, etc., production. And remember last time when you were young, when you didn't want to play poker, like you build these card towers, which is like a little pyramid, right? And then you stack them all up together. And this is what your game should be made out of. It should be made of cards from different disciplines that support each other. And every time you take one out, right, your whole game is just going to crumble. And that's why I think it's important for every single discipline to be equally valued in the chain. And eventually, everybody will want to make a game that is monetizable, that is great to play and awesome. So I really want to emphasize this hierarchy or lack of hierarchy, that everybody is important, everybody plays an important role. Yeah. Game audio myth 3 is that composer equals sound designer. Now, okay, sometimes this is true, but just because somebody can compose music, it doesn't automatically mean they can design sound. So let me just illustrate the difference. So a game composer, right? A game composer basically does audio, BGM, loops, menu music, credits music, etc., etc. They do specifically music, Granted, they are not magicians. They are not able to come up with songs in like 2 hours. Sometimes they are drafts, but they still need time and they still need the respect to tell the story through sound and music. Yeah, the difference between the composer and sound designer is that the sound designer does everything else. We do sound effects, we do implementation, we handle the VOs as well. So the sound designer is the one responsible for overseeing the entire sound and audio in the game. Sorry, just to reiterate, when you guys want to hire a sound designer, right, look out for portfolios that specifically talk about sound design. Like a composer will be able to have a portfolio that illustrates good music composition, but they may not necessarily have the portfolio that illustrates good sound design. So make sure there's that distinction when you go on looking for people to hire. So game audio myth number 4 is that, oh, sometimes you have clients, just record using iPhone lah, don't need to come down to the studio and get a proper recording. And yeah, what happens is that you have really crappy recording. And then myth number 5 is that my programmer can handle audio implementation, because anyway, implementing audio just takes 2 hours, right? And squash bugs at the same time. The 6th myth is that, oh, all music on YouTube or any website is for free. I can just rip it off. My game is not going to be so popular that people recognize it, right? Well, that brings me to my next point is, what do you look out for in a good game sound designer? First and foremost is that they should have the very technical base knowledge. So they need to have basics in sound engineering, signal flow, processing, compression. They need reasonably professional gear. So your sound designer shouldn't let you use an iPhone recording to be put in your game. You need good ears. You need to be able to tell what is a good sound in terms of not just aesthetic but quality. And obviously licensing knowledge, because some of us in the crowd may not be able to afford fully composed music, and it would be great if the sound designer knew where to get pre-composed music legally without being a criminal. The second one are the less tangible qualities, but nevertheless very important in a sound designer as well. You need to be versatile and adaptable. The sound designer needs to cover a wide genre of stuff. Like, I remember the very first game that I did, memories, 2008. I did this game called Carnival Showtime, and it required me to do circus music that was generic, one that was from China, and one that was in Venice. So I had to do research on what elements and what instruments were used during that time and that era and that geographical location. So this is the kind of versatility that a good sound designer should have. Obviously, good communication and good creative vision. Like, just because a sound designer spends 4 days working on an awesome explosion that's like Call of Duty quality and puts it into your iPhone game that's like cute, it doesn't mean that he's good, because like in the first place, like he has to know like visually when he sees this game what sound should be put in. The third tier is what sets apart a game sound designer versus a film sound designer, for example. A game sound designer should know game engines and implementation. Like, they should know about reverb zones in Unity. They should know the limitations that Cocos 2D has, etc., so that we are able to find workarounds and troubleshoot easily. We need to know the game dev cycle knowledge, like pre-production, production, polish, alpha, beta, so that the sound designers are in a good position to advise the clients when to best bring in the sound team. And of course, understand player responses. For example, we recently worked on a game that it was a free-to-play game. But the game over, right, we didn't want the players to feel like they failed the game so much that they didn't want to play it anymore. We just wanted to find the perfect balance where they know that they did not win the game, but a bit more forgiving so that they will replay it eventually. So we don't want to have like a sad violin that makes them feel so tragic, I want to die, I don't want to play the game. Yeah. So these are the sort of subtleties that a good sound designer should be able to look out for. And that being said, I'm sure many of you in the crowd have freelanced before, understand this impossible triangle. And that as sound designers, right, or any other discipline, we want to put love and care into your game, and it's important that it's reciprocal. So you have to give them time, you have to give them budget to do stuff, if you really want them to push your game all the way. Because free is out of the question. Yeah. So now I'm going to talk about how audio actually adds value to your game. And previously, we were talking about a card tower, and you saw money notes, money, right? Sometimes it leads to that. Sometimes there are other things like identity. The identity of your game is really important. So, I mean, audio is really, really good as an emotive and experiential trigger. Back from the days of oral tradition, in the caveman, you listen and then you remember and you remember. So, for example, let's say FF7, Ares' theme, right? Y'all all remember that, right? So it brings you back to the memories of the time where, you came back from school, your smelly, sweaty uniform, You're all like, and then you sit in front of the console or whatever, then you play, and then you, oh no. And you remember that feeling when you listen to it. It brings back memories, and it brings back the exact feeling that you felt the first time you heard the song. Another way that sound can add value to your game is that, this personally happened to me before, is that sometimes when I go to the Humble Audio Bundle, or like I go to Bandcamp or SoundCloud, and I listen to this awesome EP, this awesome this album of songs, and I'm like, hey, it's actually in a game, I never even played the game before, but the music is awesome. And then upon buying the music, I went ahead to buy the game because I want to have a more immersive experience of the game via its music. So to see it implemented, to see it with the art and everything, it was like a music album coming to life, and I really like that. Yeah. So far, I think most of us have been talking about music, right? Now, I'm going to show you how sound effects can also be memorable. Sound effects are typically used for feedback, but it can also be memorable, it can also add identity. So yeah, whoa, lolo. Speaking of which, voice is also a really, really good way of using sound effects. Most of us, when we do sound effects, right, we think about using synths or sample libraries, but we forget that the voice is also a really powerful instrument.
Hey, come on over, have some fun with Crazy Taxi. It's party time, let's have some fun.
X-Men versus Street Fighter!
Gentlemen, start your engines.
We have captured the control point.
Laser gun.
Impressive. Divine.
The aerial faceplate in here is sending a distress signal. You broke it, didn't you?
Work complete. Finish him.
Yeah, so sound effects are awesome. They also create identity, and they're often overlooked. And then we move on to Game Audio Myth 7, which is my sound person just churns out assets which are populated in my asset sheet, and then tada, we are done. But by the way, sound people also have production cycles, like you guys, like everybody else. We are family, right? So yeah, we start with conceptualizing, production, implementation, testing, optimization, and it just cycles round and round and round like everybody else. And in conceptualization itself, we have things like research, references, and all that. So people just can't come to sound designers and like 2 days beforehand and tell them to have them to squeeze all these processes in 2 days, because it's like art, art starts from the very beginning, and I think that audio should also start from the very beginning to bring out the best in your game. Speaking about implementation, right, there's this thing called audio middleware. I'm sure many of you heard of Fmod and Wise. So for those who haven't heard of it, right, yeah, it's a middleware that bridges the gap between the game engine and the sound designer. So it's good because sound designers don't need to touch code. We don't need to learn. It'll be good to know C#, C++, but we don't need to do it. And it's a lot of it, the interface of the audio middleware is object-oriented programming. We have our own little interface for us to use. And why should you even bother using this? Because it shaves off time from your programmer. It's the time that your programmer spends implementing audio, right? He can spend it squashing bugs or optimization, which is all valuable time. In fact, we have the responsibility of audio implementation taken away from the programmer and given back to the audio people. So middleware helps with asset budgeting, loading time optimization, increases productive time for programmers and designers. And for us, it's like a playground because we don't have to worry so much about file size limitations. For example, if you guys know about dynamically generated levels, right, using art, you can do the same for audio. Can you imagine every single level that's different, you also have different music, and you can have that happen without bloating the asset file size, which is awesome. It's like every time, yeah, it eliminates the need to bug the programmer for every micro change. So I don't need to like every time poke my programmer, hey, I need to change this, I need to change that. It's like we are in control of everything. So just for your information, two of the leading audio middleware, Wise and Fmod, right? Audio Kinetic has a booth. They are free for indies now. So all you indie developers can try it out. With the condition that, I think Fmod, your total development budget must be below 100,000 USD. And for Wise, your total file size assets for sound should be under 200, like 200 total sound file assets. So yeah, everyone can try it out, and I think it's great. I think it pushes the boundaries of audio. So the summary is that the audio is just like, we are all together and we all want to make great stuff together. So it's best to bring us in early on so we can have the best audio pipeline for you guys, you know. The difference between a composer and a sound designer, and that a sound designer also helps with implementation and integration, which is equally important as generating the asset itself. And guys, please consider using audio middleware. It's really awesome. So these are the links. And yeah, Q&A time.
Hello? Okay, we're running short on time, so maybe just one or two questions, and then I invite you to contact Gwen directly see if you have like more questions. So, any questions? I think they know you.
All right, guys, no questions.
Okay, thank you
Okay,
very much. Thanks a lot for the presentation.
Thanks, guys.
And
Yeah.
just please go, Gwen, if you want to help.